Tieri, excellent men again. This is Weapon Cross, issue number 26. This is the beginning of the final story arc on the book. This is a series that lasted much longer than anyone ever expected it would. This closing three-parter, entitled Man and Monster, it focuses on Sabretooth, who is very much a man and a monster, and I think that this highlights what this series could have really excelled at doing. As a whole, Weapon Cross was a crap series, not entirely the fault of the writer. There were two separate instances, about 7 issues apart as well, where the book was forced to completely reshuffle and revamp due to editorial demands and poor sales. Issue 14, it dropped 80% of the cast, and then issue 21, it dropped everything else except for the character of Top Gun. It was the same writer from beginning to end, Jose Quesada's pal from college, who I've also found out is a dead mobster. He is not a perfect writer in any sense of the word, but he has his moments. Didn't bother reading this recap page though. It has now to do with our main story, and it just recaps a rather bad story that preceded this. The art is by Tom Mandible, who you should all recognise as the regular artist on John Ostrage's excellent Spectre series from the 90s. He has also done art for various bits of Batman, Firelord, and I might be misremembering, but I am sure that he did some art in Animals Man. I always remembered his art in this story being quite bad and embarrassing and past his prime, but on rereading this issue, it's not that bad. We start off with Sabretooth. He is playing poker with some of his supervillain friends like Crusher Man and Constrictor Man and Typhoon Mandy. And I think Sabretooth is a good focus for this story, much like that other issue of the series I reviewed, the Sinestro one. I think that this series and this writer, they were at their best when they were spotlighting these sorts of characters rather than trying to tell a long-form story with a dozen or so obscure secondary excellent men characters, or trying to do something outrageous and new with Wolfman's backstory. I think it would have been much better if, like this last story suggests, this series, the approach was like an anthology book with stories focusing on these interesting side characters in the excellent men line. Sabretooth, he is a great character, loads of stuff to do with him, and I would say that this story is one of the better Sabretooth solo stories, at least in my opinion. Sinestro, that issue with him was really good, if you excuse the awful pun title. Top Gun, he was in this series. He's another character worth this sort of thing. And then there's loads of others. There's like Sabretooth Jr., Phantomas, Dominoes. Sadly, it's only this story and the Sinestro one that I would consider accomplishments of this series. There is some okay ideas in the rest of the book. There's some good bits with Top Gun, but a lot of the stuff, it just either doesn't gan anywhere or it just isn't done that well. Our storyline here is very simple. Sabreclaw, he has been hired by a mega corporation called Megacorp. That is clever. Sabreclaw, he has been hired by this company to track down and hunt a target, and his employer, his contractor, is a suspicious elderly man in a wheelie chair. I bet this appearance is some sort of a facade. This also directly ties in with that Sinestro issue. So, if you just read that issue and then this story, you would be fine. You are not missing anything. He has got to track down and capture Sinestro because this hard man in a wheelie chair, he was a captive in one of Sinestro's wartime concentration camps, and now he wants revenge. We quickly acknowledge a potential conflict of interest. Sabreclaw, he has worked for Sinestro in the past, but we establish how Sabreclaw doesn't owe him any loyalty and he'll just gan wherever the money is. Simple stuff, but it works for Sabreclaw. Currently, Sinestro, he is working incognito at a mutie hospital for muties. We didn't get to see much on this, but here he is manipulating some parents into pulling the plug on their mutie son who requires round-the-clock care. Obviously, this is all a ruse, and Sinestro, he intends to just take the mutie away and experiment on him. Here is Sinestro in a really lame redesign. It is a design that I would describe as very 2004, which makes sense since this came out in 2004. Also down here is Scalpman, and Scalpman, he is a character that this writer should have used more. Some of his best stuff involved little character moments with Scalpman. Sabreclaw, he tracks Sinestro down to this hospital and he gans and he confronts him. We have got some more great stuff with Scalpman along the way. The writer seemed to write Scalpman really well, but barely used him. There's also seeding stuff with him that pays off of that earlier issue I reviewed. I would have liked to see a bit more exploration of Sabreclaw and Sinestro's relationship and their history, or really just learn how and why Sabreclaw wound up working for Sinestro in the first place. Sabreclaw, he gets into a fight with Sinestro's big bodyguard man. He is called Super Hands. So now we have got a really big fight between Sabreclaw and Super Hands. Super Hands, he is super strong and he can fly. He also has super fast reflexes and speed, so Sabreclaw is struggling to hit him. But Sabreclaw, he's eventually able to overpower him and he cuts him up with his claws. And Sabreclaw stands victorious, or so he thinks. He thinks he has won. But then he turns to leave and Super Hands gets back up because, you see, Super Hands, he also has a healing factor, as well as Cyclist's optic blasts. So Super Hands, he defeats Sabreclaw. And the idea with Super Hands, he is obviously an experiment. He is one of Sinestro's creations that has had all these mutie powers grafted onto him. But I have an unrelated question that I have wondered about for years and years. DNR had comics. Well, comics from the 90s to about the mid-2000s. What is with I've set it up like it's a Jerry Seinfeld routine. What's with these bars at the top of them? You see them a lot. I assume it's tape, maybe. Like, did they used to tape the art down or something like that when they scanned it in? I didn't know, really. I didn't know what they are. It's not just here either. It's our here. It's on like every page at the top. You see them in like nearly all comics from about 1993 until this might be the latest I recall seeing them. 2004, I think this was. They're not always blue. Sometimes they're purple. Sometimes they're red, maybe. Green, I remember green. We've seen green. Thank you for watching my video about the Weapon Cross series that nobody really cared about then, and even fewer people care about now. I do think there was a strength behind parts of it, and this issue has some of that. I wouldn't call them perfect, but I think that the Sinestro issue, that is Weapon Cross issue 14, and then this three-parter with Sabreclaw, issues 26, 27 and 28, they are worth a look if you are interested in either of them characters. Actually, the Sinestro one, I would say just check that out regardless. It's a good story other than the title. Whereas this one, it's more building off of that one. And in this case, I do like the Sabreclaw character as well as that other issue. So I'm easily into it. I rate it 7 thumbs up.